Previously on Talks with Nurse Diaries.
So, hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So, I'm so excited to announce that this is the first episode of Talks with Nurse Diaries. It's like a moment in your career, so I can speak to myself as well, where you doubted your choice
to do aesthetics, because some of them are amazing and have really successful businesses and are very skilled on what they do. For those people who are unsafe but they use unregulated products and things, there needs to be some sort of regulation.
Why am I struggling to breathe?
We're so young, and being on platforms like this, we know that there's so many people our age, there's younger people that are always on social media. We want to be those people that encourage people and push people and let them know that there's actually other sides of nursing that no one actually really talks about. Delegation, which obviously means asking other people to help you with other tasks whilst you do another task is so important.
I didn't really have I don't know if those were the symptoms or what, but I didn't understand what was going on in my body because now I hardly get any period cramps, and it was a common thing, but it was hidden, because then I talked to my auntie and they said, yeah, Mum, I have that. I said, well, I didn't know about that.
When I started mine, to be honest, it was a Sunday church. My mom so active as well. She told me, she just gave me I was I started my period, and I was very excited because I remember everybody else kind of started. I feel like I was kind of one of the last ones. So I was so excited. And I came to her, she was like, yeah, here's it. I make sure to come to church. Since I'm actually doing.
Hi guys, my name is Anita. I am a nurse. By background, I worked in acute surgical unit for most of my nursing years. So I've been a nurse for about 7 years, and currently I am starting a new role as a tissue viability clinical nurse specialist. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, that's pretty.
Wow. It's nice. Representing Africa. Definitely. Okay, cool. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 5 of Talks with Nurse Diaries, and I'm here with Lilian. So can you please just introduce yourself, let them know who you are, what you do.
No problem. Hi, my name is Lilian, on Instagram at Liliano1 if you wish to follow or find out about me. I'm a chronic health advocate. At present, I am medically retired, but I turn my hand into fashion style, advocating about health conditions. So I carry a brand called the Sweet Mother Collection, and it's bespoke items such as this, made in the motherland in Africa, that I try and bring to the masses in a modern way, just showing how fashion and style can work, especially if you have chronic health illnesses. So that's a bit about me.
That's that. First of all, obviously, thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you for reaching out.
No worries, guys. Look at the food. Everything's just giving
I tried to morph in a bit, so we're giving luxe today. We're giving comfy, chic, luxe, affordable fashion today.
I love it. So I just want you to just speak about what happened when you found out you had endometriosis.
Sure.
And just your symptoms to begin with, and then we'll go more in depth with everything.
Okay, so my personal journey started more so when I was in my 20s, so I'm now aged 50. So in my 20s, I started experiencing extreme period pains, but also the length of time for which my cycle was going on for 7+ days. For me, I was experiencing vomiting, fainting, a lot of food allergies, skin allergies, chronic pain, definitely fatigue, and I was always told it's anemia and I have an iron deficiency. For me at that time in my 20s, I was very svelte and quite slim in a sense, and just very particular with food. So I definitely knew something wasn't right. So it started then. However, fast forwarding, I was actually diagnosed in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And prior to
menopause. Prior to your 20s,
Yes.
before that, like, were your periods that bad or?
No, that's why I think it's a bit of a strange one with endometriosis in particular, because some people do present as having issues when they're teens, and it's happening a lot more now. But me personally, I started my cycle later than a lot of people, so I didn't start early. I think I was about 13, 14, if I remember rightly, which was extremely late. And I can honestly say I had no issues with my cycle at all. I wasn't one of those at school back in my day, long ago. But I knew girls that had to, they weren't able to play sports, they weren't able to go swimming. I didn't present as that. I was very proactive, swimming, athletics, very vibrant. So, bit of a strange one. It didn't impact me at any young age at all. I would say normal periods, definitely.
And I think we're going to speak more in
No
regards
problem,
to
I know. My story is quite long, so you might have to edit anyway.
No. But I love how you've actually spoken about it, because a lot of the time, what I've learned is, especially as a gynecology nurse, is that flare-ups actually occur from a certain period of time, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
And sometimes everything seems fine, and a lot of people don't actually understand that they have endometriosis until it gets to the worst stage.
That's right, because I think you saying that. Sorry, to cut. You saying that is because in schools, even my time, even worse, we didn't speak about cycles. We were given this thing that looked like a brick, to be fair, and had a lesson on health. I can't remember what you used to call it back then. Oh, it's such a long time ago, but we didn't speak about girls' health, periods, culturally as well, I would say. I know a lot of my friends from African, Caribbean backgrounds, our parents didn't, and families, aunts, uncles, sisters, didn't talk about menstrual cycles either.
I feel like even now, it's not a topic that's really spoken
It's
about
not.
too tough. It's maybe more than before, but still not.
It's still, for some reason, and let's be honest, women are 50% of the population, but yet we don't 50% talk about cycles. It's like this hidden thing that just goes under the carpet. The woman stays in bed, that's it. But actually, no, as you said, it's only until it's extreme. And with endometriosis, that is the classic case, because it stops you, it can stop you very much in its track, that you can't go to school, you can't go to college, you can't go to work, and it alters your life. So obviously, you know, now in 2024, we need that education to, before it gets to that stage, what are the signs and symptoms? And the other point with that is, everyone has a different symptom and there are different signs. So what may impact me may not impact my friend or my sister or something like that, because there are so many symptoms when it comes to endo, and a lot of them do actually overlap with other gynae issues as well. I'm sure we'll get into that.
That's why it's so hard as well.
It's hard. It's really hard. It's really hard. But I think there almost needs to be like a classic checklist to begin with. Once a young girl, a person with a womb has that list, then maybe there should be a test. Let's just test, like, let's look from then rather than waiting. Because I tell you what, with endo as well, a lot of symptoms can come up as gastro issues. We have a lot of bloating, very interlinked, bowel issues, bladder issues, food intolerances. I was told I had IBS for years. You know, I took myself off to private doctors to have food allergy testings, and I was trying to put a puzzle together, although I didn't have a clue what I was looking for. I just thought I was one of those sensitive people with sensitive skin and all sorts.
That is so interesting to me. That's exactly why we do all of this, just because I feel like when it comes to endometriosis, when it comes to women's health, till this day in 2024, like, there's so much that we still need to discover, and there's a lot that needs to be spoken about. So So, for those who do not know what endometriosis is, are you happy to share a light on
Yeah, I mean, I am no expert, people, so let's just make that clear. But I am a living patient, all right? So a lot of the time, to be honest, my endo warriors, we do have to educate people quite a lot because you can go to Dr. Google, as you do, and we have AI now. So depending on what the description is, it's a very hard one to describe. But endometriosis is where you have cells, tissues that are similar, to your reproductive area inside. When you're having a period, the tissue is having inflammation almost outside of your gynae area. So the point with endometriosis is it can be found anywhere in the body. A lot of people, it does present in ovaries, not inside your womb, that's adenomyosis, but I guess we can come to that.
Will come to that.
But endometriosis can be found in your eye. I've had it in my hip before, in the bowel. Tissue, it's microscopic, some of it can be larger amounts, but it's found outside of the womb area. Hence, there is no cure, and I think that needs to be explained as well.
Yeah.
No cure. So again, it's not the definitive description of it. I won't get medical with it. I'm just trying to make it easily understandable for those who may not know. That's the easiest way to describe it.
And I think you've explained it very, very well.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for you to just talk to the audience about your journey.
No problem.
Guys, I'm gonna just be behind the camera. I feel like you are amazing.
Bless you.
And
Bless you. As are you.
And this time around, instead of me sitting here asking questions, I think I'm going to just let Lilian just explain her story, so you guys can really have a better understanding.
No
See
problem.
you guys.
So hi, if you don't know who I am, my name is Lilian. I've already introduced myself, but I can be found on Instagram at Liliana1. I am a chronic health warrior, and I do try and classify myself as chronically awesome because that's what we are: fighting adversity, fighting health. Now, I personally have a plethora of health conditions that have been diagnosed, so I'll just run through those and then maybe we can discuss. I have endometriosis, adenomyosis, endometrial hyperplasia, fibromyalgia, EDS hypermobility syndrome even, and anemia, and I think there are a few others, but I'll leave it there. My story goes, I've explained a bit before, as a young girl, living quite a healthy, vibrant life, but always a bit particular with food. I started working in banking at quite a young age, at the tender age of 16, to a very strong mother. Now, what I do know is that some people may talk about endo in particular, because that's what the focus is today, that it could be a genetic condition, and maybe something happens in your life where that gene is triggered. Nobody knows. For me, I lost my mum at the tender age of 16, and I think from then there was a lot of grieving going on. Now, I carried on with work and tried to keep up with my friends, having that vibrant life, and as I explained, in my 20s is when I started experiencing problems with my menstrual cycle and other things around my life with skin, health, pain in particular. I would go to work where possible, but then I noticed that my periods were getting longer and longer, sometimes lasting up to 14 days, to be honest. I was experiencing a lot of fainting, so I'd be getting on the train and just passing out. Thank God for good humans who were there to save me, you know, out of breath. There were so many things that were wrong, but you know what, guys? I carried on. Believe it or not, I carried on because I felt like there was no one I could turn to. I did have friends there, they kind of got it. I used to take a lot of medication like ibuprofen, if any of you guys know that medication, which I think probably interrupted my digestive system as well, but it was the only thing I could do to still be able to leave my home. When I did have a cycle, I would literally be in bed for 3 or 4 days, not eating, barely drinking. Unfortunately, if I'm totally honest, still taking medication because I was trying to just get rid of this chronic extreme pain. And I'm talking pain that would just knock you out literally, where you couldn't do a thing. I did have a very supportive brother who didn't know what to do at the time. He was my guardian, but he kind of did try to just support me in that moment, as did my friends the best way they could, as did some of my family members. But they too were recognizing that my health had changed so much, and then I was becoming more unwell than well. So what I mean by that is I was having 2 weeks out of, I would say, the month where I had a window where I could socialize, be out with my friends, be in focus on a relationship. And then I had 2 weeks when I just disappeared. I just needed to be in bed. My mind, my body, everything just drained. And, again, we knew something wasn't right, but I didn't have the confidence. I was very scared that I didn't want to turn to the doctors, for whatever reason. I just didn't feel I had the confidence to be able to describe what I was going through. I was literally in my early 30s. I started a relationship which seemed to be a serious one. And I thought, you know what? Because of who it was, I knew him from childhood, which was quite sweet. I thought, going forward, I need to let this guy know what's going on, because how's this going to work? I'm going to be around his, he may come around mine. How am I going to explain these periods? And to be honest, I shut him out for quite a long while because I didn't know how to explain that actually when I have my period, I turn into something else. I'm in bed a long time, I'm in pain, But to be fair, he started seeing that something wasn't right, as did his mother, as did some of his family members. So if I'm totally honest, he was the one that said, look, something's not right here. And I thought he's seen something that maybe other people hadn't noticed before. So I gained some confidence with his support, went along to my doctor, and my doctor did a few tests. But before that point, this doctor, he was like a father figure. And funny enough, he was a black African doctor. So I didn't want to talk about certain things with this doctor. Dr. Shadipi, to be fair. But he really brought me out of my shell and was asking me questions because my bloods were really low. I was presenting a certain way. He was talking to me about sexual health. I was like, no, doc, we don't need to be talking about that. But at least I had him to turn to. And he said to me in, I think it was 2009 or 10, he said, you sound like somebody who has adenomyosis. And I was like, adenomyosis who? Because I'd never heard of this before. And he said, look, here's some information. Google was around then. I'm not that ancient. Google was around then. But in the same breath, believe it or not, back then, there wasn't a lot at all on Google. But when he told me, I was like, it sounded really scary. I'm not going to lie, I was really, really scared. So he said to me, look, I'm going to do some tests. Then at the time I was living in the borough of Bromley, short to be moving to an area called Sanderstead. So at that time you weren't allowed to be with your pre-existing doctor if you're out of the borough. Yeah. So he said to me, he'd refer me to a consultant at a particular hospital in Bromley. But then the referral came and they said to me, and this is the bit I couldn't get my head around, to confirm if you have adenomyosis, we need to do keyhole surgery and do investigative work. I was like, say what now? What's going on now? It just didn't make sense, but they were like, look, the only way we can find out if you have endometriosis or adenomyosis is giving you this operation to actually go in to find out. Now back then, again, I was very naive, even though I was in my early 30s. I was still working at the time. Even then I was contracting, because I felt it was an easier way for me to manage the days when I wasn't in work, because I didn't want to take so much time off sick with certain employers, if that makes sense. So it was a January 2011, and I had keyhole surgery. And I remember having this operation procedure. I'll be honest with you, it was quite barbaric and very, very painful. I did not stay in overnight. I came home the same day, but even then with a specialist, they didn't explain the healing process. They didn't explain that I'd be bedbound so much. They didn't explain a lot back then. So I'd had it done, thinking that in 4 weeks I'm gonna bounce back and go back to work. I had stitches, and with the keyhole surgery, they went in 3 places within the wound area, and they did indeed remove endometriosis tissue, and they did confirm I had endometriosis and adenomyosis in January. So in a way, it's bittersweet, and it was bittersweet, because I thought, the light bulb moment, something is wrong. It confirmed my years of pain, my years of knowing something wasn't quite right. But in the same breath, I didn't know where to turn now, because in my mind, I've had an operation now. I'm cured. That's it. Life's going to go back. I can go to work. I can now go back to my permanent working. I can go and be a boss babe and everything's going to be okay. I've got this partner by my side. We can now think about having children and everything's just going to be perfect. And that's where the story actually begins. So the healing process for the keyhole surgery didn't quite go according to plan. I would say I went back to work far too early, but that being said, I had an excellent manager who too confirmed that she did have some gynae issues as well. So she did give me a bit of grace when slowly coming back into work. I would say it took about 6 weeks before I could fully, be back in the office and try and live life as normal. But what I found going back, I didn't feel okay. I still wasn't well. Once I then had my first cycle, it was excruciating, heavy. I mean, it's a lot of information, so sorry if this is TMI for a lot of you. But pre the operation and after the operation, I was working in central London for government departments and stuff like that. And unfortunately, I was leaving trains of blood behind me on the chair, in the toilet, on the carpet. I lived in this period wearing black a lot of the time. So where people see me now, which is why I had to try and wear a lot of colour, because I've lived a lot in black because of this health condition. So imagine you've had this surgery, no one's really explained the aftercare, no one's really explained what's going to happen. You're thinking you're going to be cured, and back then they did say it should and it will make my life easier. It did not. It made my life, it was exactly the same. Nothing had changed. I've now had this surgery. I'm now still in pain. I've gone back to the same pattern. I don't even think it was 2 months where everything was exactly the same. The vomiting had started again. The passing out had started again. I did have that relationship with Dr. Shadipi, who did kind of assign me to another brilliant doctor. So I've been very fortunate up until that point to have people who really understood. So now I'm battling with endometriosis and adenomyosis. And adenomyosis is the endometriosis's cousin, which a lot of people don't actually talk about for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure. But adenomyosis is where you have tissue in the womb lining, and it's really excruciating. With adenomyosis, there is no way of this tissue coming out. It's almost stuck in your womb lining. So you may hear people saying that there's a cure for endometriosis. There is no cure for endo, but for adenomyosis, there are different ways of maybe managing, and people do sometimes are offered a hysterectomy if you feel you have your family in place. For religious people, some people may not want to go down that road. However, if you have a plethora of conditions like endometriosis and adenomyosis, it can make it very, very, complicated and confusing, with decision making, So I've just lived with years of this pain. The pattern was the same. I tried to focus on diet, holistic health in particular, herbs, tinctures. I was always sick, my immune system really low, fighting a lot of colds. But one thing about me, I'm definitely a true warrior, because I did not give up on trying to reach out to different communities, research this condition, albeit medical. And I can't remember the year I started venturing into social media, because I thought, hold on a minute, no one in my circle, apart from one person that I knew, had endometriosis. And considering the probability is 1 of 10 or 1 in 10 with endometriosis, it was a bit less with adenomyosis back there. I said, no, I need to find people that look like me. I didn't know if it was a black thing. I heard things like it was a middle class condition, and it would be women who are white facing middle class. Evidently that is not me. Well, the middle class bit I'll take, but definitely not white. So, I ventured onto social media just to try and find some communities. I tried to reach out to various charities in the UK, some of the larger charities, and trying to find a community where I found people that looked like me. So I did find a lot of endo warriors, just on Instagram in particular, and it was very comforting to know that I wasn't alone. A major part of my journey was actually being the age of 32 with no children, being told that endometriosis and adenomyosis in some instances can cause infertility issues. I already had an inkling that that was my scenario, and I had miscarried previous to being with my partner many, many moons ago. So we were at a stage and in a very committed, loving, serious relationship, and we did go through a fertility journey. And the reason why we went through that journey, because at the time when they found out the stage of my endometriosis, which was stage 4, the endometriosis was in my bladder, bowel, and really spread around a lot of my gynae area, being the ovaries, really a lot of scar tissue, unfortunately, and my womb had really grown in size, and that's more so with the adenomyosis, and it is retroverted, which means it's backwards. So when you're walking or doing activities, and even during special moments, loving moments you may have with your partner, it's very, very painful. It's painful during and painful after. So I would say if you experience any of that, it's not in your head and you're not alone. So I started my infertility journey, and obviously a lot of people do want to try the natural way, and it just wasn't my personal experience. So I went down the IVF route, And I would say it was definitely a mental and physical strain to go through that. If anybody knows about IVF. Now, because of time, you can always reach out to me on Instagram at Lilian01 if you want support or want to talk about the specifics with that. But that just to say, you really need to be mentally ready. It doesn't matter if it's private or if you do get funded by the NHS. I do believe you need to be under 40 to be able to access IVF. And in particular, excuse me, that's just live there, the phone in the background, and maybe not have children. The stipulation may have changed. But for me, under a particular hospital, I wasn't treated well at all. It was very barbaric and very robotic. And for what was meant to be something so loving and wonderful, I had a horrible, horrible time. It's not so much the journey, but I would say the specialists in particular really weren't caring. And this is what some of us face when we're going through this journey of chronic health and endo journey in particular. You know, I've come from having all the great support up until a point, and as soon as I changed doctors and hospitals, I won't name hospitals at the moment, but it wasn't nice at all. And I will say, like, out of a cohort and a group of 28 women, I think my lucky number must be 28 because there's another story to do with 28. I was literally told, you will never fall pregnant. You do not have enough eggs. There were so many things against me personally, yet alone my partner, that I just wanted to give up. And I thought, you know what, I haven't got the head capacity to go through with this. But with the support of my friends and family, evidently my partner, you know, they said, listen, don't listen to what the specialists say. You just need one egg and for things to happen. And that was kind of like what I stood by. I was battling my employer at the time because they definitely, at the point of me going through this journey, I had a horrible boss. If anyone knows what that is like, he was horrible, right? He tried to do everything but support prior to having a nice boss, so it really threw me. And I would say I fought, the warrior that I am, and out of the 28 women in this cohort, myself and another were the only two that managed to be successful with the IVF. So it was amazing. It was like too good to be true. You know, the amount of pregnancy tests that we did, you know, it was brilliant. And in that moment of going through injections and everything with IVF, I literally cut myself away from anything negative, anything that was come to destroy me. Only everyone knows my thing is love and light, and I definitely did stick to that. Now, as I said, I did fall pregnant and had gone a particular way, but at that time, being that at this age now, I would have been 39, so this is a long way from being diagnosed up until a particular point. But the journey again was strained. It was stressful because I was battling a workplace who were effectively trying to get rid of my post, even though they couldn't, trying to relocate me to like Timbuktu, knowing that I had endometriosis. And again, for employment purposes, endometriosis falls under the Equality Act 2010, so you can effectively call it a disability for those who don't know. You know, so the hospital themselves, again, were very barbaric. They stressed me out beyond everything, and they kept on calling me in to want to do internal scans. At the time, my mother-in-law was like, don't go, because there's no reason why they need to be invading so much. And because you're listening to professionals, you don't know what way to turn, and I didn't know what way to turn. So because, you know, I wanted to do the right thing, I did go to the hospital to get some internal scans. Unfortunately, I went to internal scan, and sorry, this is a trigger warning for anyone who may be listening. If you're going through this journey, I feel you and I see you, and I'm sorry if it doesn't work out how you thought it would work out. For my journey in particular, after having a particular scan, I got home and started bleeding. So what it would appear is, with the internal scan, unfortunately, you know, I'm not sure what to say because I can't apportion blame, but it appeared that I then was having a miscarriage, which was unfortunate. So all the hard work, all the whole journey, going to Harley Street, having the IVF, cutting myself away, all the work was then undone, I would say. And I definitely went into a very, very low mood because we had shared the high point and the fact that we had become pregnant with some of our close ones, not the wider community. So to then have to explain to them that, you know, we've now miscarried was really, really hard. So what I would say as far as endometriosis, again, it can impact people in so many different ways. This is my personal story. There are some people with endometriosis who are successful with falling pregnant, some who are more challenged. The other thing to say about endometriosis, it doesn't matter what stage you're at, the impact can be different for so many different people. But the important part of it is that it definitely can riddle your organs and every part of your body. So we need people to give us a bit of grace as well when we're talking about our adversities or having a bit of understanding. So I explained in the beginning that I have a plethora of health conditions. I am medically retired. Again, this is my story. I've had 6 operations since 2011, 6. And just to say, at the tender age of 50, I still have endometriosis. I am under specialist care. Many of you may not know, but there are specialist hospitals that deal with endometriosis. A lot of us have endometriosis, fibroids, adenomyosis, PCOS, all kind of rolled into one, so it is very, very hard to manage. I'm under Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital, which is in London Bridge and Westminster, right? But in your locality area, you can always find out where your specialist hospital is. As I said, I still have endometriosis. My consultant has told me, and there is no cure. Even post-menopause, when that time comes, I will still have endometriosis. And I think that's important to know. Advice for anyone with endometriosis and adenomyosis. Now, I'm no expert by any means, but the number one and the key thing is you have to advocate for yourself. It doesn't matter if you're shy, you're an introvert, extrovert. Advocating for yourself is so important because even in 2024, there are so many medical professionals and doctors who still don't know about endometriosis and adenomyosis, and unfortunately still don't care. So you have to advocate. If something doesn't feel right, just know, hopefully, you know, it's not in your head. Go and seek advice. Go and get the help you need. Keep a diary of your symptoms. Where possible, keep your body moving. Try and eat well. It's a lifestyle thing. Don't feel you can't share it with your friends and family. It doesn't matter if you're a broken record. Those who love you will show up for you. You're not alone. And you know what? I love my friends and family, sorry people. But I never thought I would meet so many loved people and people who love me on social media. And it is real life. I don't care what people say because I've met a lot of my community online. So just know you're not alone. But just advocate for yourself. And yeah, just I would say as well, as much as medication is there, don't feel ashamed to take medication for what you need. Maybe medication, holistic wellness, self-care, it all sounds airy-fairy, but it's really important, because if you minimize stress, hopefully you can minimize anything exacerbating in your body, especially endometriosis tissue.
So I just want you to speak about your brand, everything to do with that, and then we'll... Okay, so
at Liliano1, Lilyano1 on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. And what I do at the moment, I do have a brand, and I'm selling clothing, accessories, fashion, doing pop-up shops, and my life is advocating as well. So there is more to come, but you can follow. And Nurses Diaries, follow. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.